All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I know we've got a lot of content to cover today, and we've got a really exciting topic. So greetings, welcome to our attendees dialing in from really all over the country. I was looking at the registration list, and we've got quite a mix from the east to the west coast. So appreciate you joining. This is Cloud Streams Live from Cox Business. It's an exclusive web series where we take a deep dive into cloud and other emerging technologies that are designed to simplify your network operations, drive increased productivity, and maximize the profitability for your business. For those of you who haven't been on previous calls, I'm Jared Ruth, the Director of Marketing here at Cox Business Cloud Solutions, and actually super excited today to be joined by my colleague in the business, and I think probably everyone's friend at this point, right, Dan? Dan
That's
Burke
right.
from Veeam Software. Good to have you today, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good to get out and talk with people about backup and recovery and how to keep their businesses safe.
Love it. Love it. Well, good stuff. Before we dive into the content, I'm going to just, we do a webinar reminder here. This is being recorded. So, if you miss part of it or whatnot, don't worry about it. We'll go ahead and send this out after today's session. And then as we talk through this content, feel free to chat us any questions you might have in the Q&A panel. We'll answer those at the end of the session as well. And then through this, we're going to actually do a quick survey with y'all, so that'll also appear over in that panel as well. So we'll go ahead and jump into it, right? So yeah, I love this Dilbert. Well, I love Dilbert in general, but I love this one because I got to tell you, we meet with so many customers, and I know Dan, you do as well. And quite frankly, this is not that uncommon, right? It's disaster recovery and backup kind of become a lot more important when there's an incident.
That's-
I'm sure you see that as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things we always talk about, it's not even just having a plan. It's practicing the plan, testing it, going through those executions, doing test restores, and a lot of things that go into that, so that even if you do have a plan, it feels like something you can actually execute. But a lot of folks just don't even have that. And so hopefully what we can do is suss out some of the basic things over the course of today's presentation to think about in terms of putting together a plan to be able to recover in the event of a disaster, right?
That's right. Yeah, and we see it a lot too with, a lot of times large enterprises have a plan. They've got an entire team of folks that are dedicated to this stuff. Where we see, a gap sometimes is in the, small, medium-sized businesses where, quite frankly, there's just so much going on, especially, when you think about the last year and a half with everybody going remote and, so many priorities and just trying to take care of yourself and your employees, and man, it's become a real challenge. So having those resources is not necessarily always readily available to smaller businesses.
That's right.
And one of the things that's really interesting though is, obviously you got servers sitting at your business and your premise, or computers or other things, and those get damaged or go down, then obviously that's a huge problem. But what I'm finding, as we talk to more and more customers, is there's an assumption that just because you migrate to certain cloud services, et cetera, Microsoft, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, them all, that is automatically means that all your data is backed up and safe and you can grab it whenever you want and everything. And really, what we find is that that's not necessarily the case. Now, they do offer those services in some cases, but not always. It's just not automatic. And so that's a common misconception. Do you see that as well?
Absolutely. And so what we always talk about on the Veeam side of things, since this is our bread and butter is backup disaster recovery, is that these providers are offering a platform, and that platform might have 5 nines or 6 nines of availability. And that really means that the cloud is going to be running, right? You're going to be able to log into your servers. You're going to have your applications become available, or stay available. The real challenge is what happens if you need to go back and get data that was lost a couple of days ago. So the example I always give, right? I was a IT director for about 10 years at a variety of different law firms in Denver, is that people would realize that they were missing data or they had accidentally deleted something, and it might be 2 weeks ago, right? And even if you do have what feels like some sort of data availability with these cloud providers, the ability to go back yesterday, last week, a month ago, to be able to recover that data is just not there unless you want to pay, out the nose for it in a lot of cases. So super important to understand that that platform availability is not the same thing as backup.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're wondering, this is not a picture from the Sistine Chapel. It's obviously finger pointing, and that's where it gets ugly, right? After this stuff happens, then it's like, well, hey, I thought you guys backed this up. It's like, well, no, I thought you backed this up, and that's never a fun place to be in, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about it, really, it's our responsibility as IT leaders. It's our responsibility to make sure that that our data is backed up, that we've got a solution, that we've practiced, and like you said, have a playbook for when this stuff happens. You know how to quickly recover. And the good news, holy smokes, the great news is that there is awesome solutions to make this very simple. So as self-affronting as a finger pointing back at you might feel, it's there are very easy solutions. So let's step into that, if you don't mind. We'll go start checking this out. So
Yeah.
you talk to me all the time. We talk about this, the 3-2-1 rule of backup. I think it's fairly commonly known across the industry, but can you really break this down for us?
Yeah, 100%. So this is a Veeam thing, and anybody who's ever spoken to anybody or read any literature will have come across the 3-2-1 rule. So we always talk about the importance of having 3 copies of your data, and that's going to be a production copy in most cases, a backup copy, and then an offsite copy. But having that 3 different copies of that provides you with some redundancy in the event that something should happen, either with production, backup, or offsite, right? So you always want to make sure you have at least 3. And then we always talk about having 2 types of media. So you want to have that data located in something that's going to be physically different, right? Having 3 copies of the data on a single server as a backup server doesn't really accomplish that goal. So a lot of times this would, in the old days, be considered a tape backup, or maybe folks are rotating disks or USB drives or something like that, but always super important to have at least 2 types of media that the data is on. And then the last step here is having 1 copy offsite. Selfishly, Veeam's got a fantastic solution, and we'll dig into it as we go through the remaining slides in here, called Cloud Connect, but it's a super effective way of being able to leverage the Veeam platform to not only provide you with the 3 copies, but also leverage 2 types of media, with one of them being offsite in the Cloud Connect repository, in this case, a Cox Business Cloud Solutions data center.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I think it's a great model to think about. And if you're out there, maybe grab a screenshot of this, because it's so important that you think through backup in this manner. But there's real challenges out there. Like we talked about, especially with small, medium-sized businesses. To go solve this, you're talking about some expensive data center equipment. You're talking about potentially licensing and other things, and things that, quite frankly, what I hear a lot is like, yeah, we don't have money, we don't have the extra money or resources to just have this stuff sitting around waiting for a disaster, right? It can get expensive. The complexities around it, right? Trying to maintain it, monitor it, remediate, involve the right expertise, which, as we all know, again, finding talent right now is really tough. It's not easy to even find employees, let alone people that know how to do this stuff. So it's not easy. And then, we deal with a lot of larger government entities as well, and whatnot. And aging technology is a real problem, right? It's budgets are tight, and being able to keep, technology that that is constantly changing. We think about it, technology changes every 1 to 3 years.
That's right.
It flips over. So being able to pay a major capital outlay every 3 years is not simple.
Yeah, and frankly, we change our technology, somewhat regularly, not in massive disruptive ways, but we're in the process of iterating all the time on the Veeam side of things, right? So just keeping up with vendors and applications can be a challenge in itself. So, I don't want to have to repeat all of this, but the challenge that I have most often seen is really around, of course, complexity is a piece of this, right? But ideally, you're going to use some simple solutions like Veeam and Cox Business. But the cost, right? That's where you get saddled with hardware maintenance, data center costs, travel, potentially all of this sort of stuff for an offsite or a backup solution that potentially adds no value to the business. Ideally, right, you're never going to need any of this stuff. And having to continue to invest in it on an ongoing basis becomes, a real weight on the IT budget. So trying to find alternative solutions to that, I think, is key, and one of the reasons we are all looking at the cloud, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love that you said that. It's spot on. And I thought, it'd be really interesting just to take a quick poll, the audience out there. And a very simple poll, 100% confident that you have the data you need backed up offsite to resume your business functions. And just a yes or no question, just curious out there, if people have that confidence when you go to work, if it keeps you up at night or anything like that, I'd say it's a no. But just curious what this looks like. So we'll give it some time. We'll let that sit up there, and we'll keep moving through this. So obviously we've touched on it, right? I think everybody kind of knows where this is going. The solution is offsite backups. It's so critical to have these modern solutions. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about these three different
Yep,
here?
100%. Yeah, so geo redundancy obviously is super important, and we all are seeing more and more natural disasters, right, happening, whether it's flooding in the southeast or fires on the west coast. And I think having a significant distance between your copies of your data and your one offsite will only continue to be more important over time. When I was in the data center space, we used to talk about identifying alternative power grids. So the US is primarily made up of an east, a west, and a Texas power grid. And so when we were talking about white floor and data center, we always advise people to have second locations on an entirely different power grid. I don't know that that's as necessary maybe now as it, certainly in the commercial and SMB space, but having, across state lines or in different territories or regions of the country, I think is super important. On the air gapping side of things, so this is the idea that you're going to actually have physical and logical space between the copies of your data, right? So it's not going to be another network that's connected, through some sort of a VPN or something like that, such that a disaster could potentially affect both the production and the backup data, but actually having that logical and physical difference so that anything that happens in production doesn't bleed over into your backup data. And then thinking about what the RTO and RPO, how they affect your business. And for those who don't know, recovery time, RTO, is how long it's going to take to get your data back in the event that you needed to recover it. And the recovery point is how old that data is going to be. So there are really two. When I talk about this, I think about that recovery time being, what would it take if, a tornado or used to joke about the asteroid takes out your office building and takes out your IT hardware. You're going to have to order new hardware and find a new place to put it and install your, operating systems and applications and recover all of that stuff. How long is that going to take you? Is it going to take days or potentially weeks, depending on the level of sophistication or complication in your environment? And then how old is that data? Is it going to be an hour old? Is it going to be a day old? Is it a week old? If you had to go and rotate a tape from, the bank or wherever, you put your offsite media. If you had to get that data back, in my world, in law firm land, if we were looking at something that was a week old, you'd have to multiply that by the number of people who were billing their time for money, on a daily basis. And what is
That's right.
the loss in revenue there is, potentially catastrophic. So, you have to weigh these things individually for your business. But I would tell you that, not to sort of jump ahead too far, but having the ability to get the data back from yesterday minimally is super important. And we'll show a
Yeah.
little bit about how you can do that. And then the recovery time, whether it's having backup infrastructure or leveraging a partner like Cox Business Cloud Solutions, I think is a really effective way to accomplish a reasonable RTO and RPO.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And to your point, I think again about smaller businesses here where, if you're a accounting firm, or if you're a um, maybe a graphic design company or your architecture company, just thinking through like what a day's work looks like, right? And it's significant. You think about a day, like how much could happen in a day, but all you have to do is look down at your calendar and think about what you're doing, and think
Right.
about, times the number of employees.
Right.
Even a day loss can be a significant
I
problem.
always think about that. When was the last we used to? So to be fair, it may age me a little bit, but I worked at the undergraduate computer lab in college. We had a couple hundred computers on the floor, and there were so many kids who would come crying to the help desk saying, "Oh my gosh, I was working on my document and I forgot to save it and I lost it." Right? That's one document. So think about how often you don't hit Control S while you're busy working on something. And then multiply that by, $400 an hour, $1,000 an hour
Yeah.
across, 100 attorneys. Away, it gets out of control fast.
Yes, it sure does. Well, yeah, absolutely agree. So we can talk about it for hours probably, but I thought it would be cool. We're going through kind of a few simple steps. So let's say you lost a machine. You're like, okay, hey, we got to get this back. Take us through how easy it is to kind of restore a VM.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the awesome things about Veeam is that, we're very virtual machine focused. That's kind of our bread and butter. But with the built-in functionality for offsite backups with Cloud Connect, you can actually do a restore of an entire virtual machine. As you can see in the screen cap here, you can go and right-click on the machine you want and either choose to restore the entire virtual machine or maybe an individual virtual disk or files that, you could even pull Active Directory data and guest files and things like that. So you've got a ton of flexibility. But say, you wanted to restore the entire virtual machine. Jared, why don't you hit next? Take a look at what that looks like. You can see, oh, this is actually small. I got to put on my glasses so I can see what I'm looking at. You can see the restore points that you have here. And as I said, this is the important thing about recovery point objective. We've got a backup, that's from a day ago. You have a couple of days old, depending on how old that data is or where the last time it might have been saved was. You want to be able to pull down a copy of that, right? So in this case, we've chosen, yesterday's backup, and we'll move forward. And then we can choose to restore this to the original location. So, say the entire virtual machine is offline or corrupt, then you can just restore it back to that same virtual environment. Or you can choose to restore it to a new location in a new data center or a new, VMware environment, or even across platforms. If it was VMware and you had a recovery environment that was Hyper-V, you could do the restore there. And then the next one.
Here we go.
Cool. We have the ability, this is actually super cool and something that continues to be developed on our end, the ability to scan these virtual machine restores and files for any sort of malware, right? There are a lot of times where you don't know maybe how old or how far back that malware infection is, and sometimes they'll be sitting there kind of waiting to attack. So depending on how far back you want to go, you want to scan to make sure that there isn't any malware on that backup before you do the restore.
Yeah, and that's key to
Mhm.
your point, because if you're restoring from a corrupt, version or recovery point, which happens, frequently,
Yeah.
especially this day and age,
Yep.
uh, something that's really important to understand.
Yep, 100%. And then you go through, it gives you a little bit of a summary here. It's going to, kind of review the settings. You can choose to power on the virtual machine after restore. I, for one, tend to like to keep the virtual machine off so I can make sure that everything looks good before I press play. But go ahead and click finish here. And you can take a look at the actual status bar. It's going to show you what it's doing, pulling the backup down from, and this would be from a, Cox Business cloud, streaming that virtual machine back. And then it kind of gives you a status here, and we move into the next one. Once it's complete, it tells you what it's done, how long it took. In this particular case, I think we're looking at probably 25 minutes or so to do the entire restore of a 40 gig virtual machine, which is kind of standard size Windows VM. And you have this thing sitting there running in your data center, ready to press play. So consider that it would, if you had some sort of a catastrophic failure of one of the virtual machines in your environment, in half an hour, you could have it back and running again in your production environment. Super, super effective. And that's bringing it back from offsite, right? So the alternative to this would have been to go get removable media or drive to the bank and get a tape. And again, talking about that recovery time objective, this really is an unbeatable solution.
Yeah, that's a great point there, you make about it being offsite, because again, a lot of times people are grabbing on-site backups, etc. But when that fails, there's got to be another solution, another step there. So,
Yep.
so yeah, I love that. And again, just step through, very, very intuitive, easy to recover, and lots of different options. Obviously, we don't have time to cover all the options here. But
Yeah, we could go way down the rabbit hole. There are a lot of really cool things you can do, but yeah, those are the basics.
Yeah, love it. So basically, give you a chance to talk through, Veeam here, because what we have, this isn't just stuff that's, dreamt up overnight and put into place. You are a industry leader. You've been around for a long time. Tell us a little about Veeam and why, I can tell you why we chose you as a partner, but talk
Sure.
about, the power of Veeam.
Yeah, and I'll, I actually always love to tell people that I fell in love with Veeam way back when, because it was a tool when I used it for my own um, virtual infrastructure when I was the IT director, but then I was in the service provider space, and we were looking for a solution that we could leverage across, our 50, 75 different customers, a lot of law firms and things like that. And it gave us all a sense of kind of well-being and calmness, right? Because we knew we could sleep well at night, and if a disaster happened, we didn't have to scramble because we could leverage Veeam to be able to provide rapid recoverability of those applications. And I've got a million stories, but I'm not the only person who has these sort of success stories. And you can see here satisfaction level, and I talk about the portfolio and all the different things that we didn't even look at, but that the tool of the portfolio can provide. But when I'm talking with people about this, if I'm stuck in an elevator, the numbers that I love to talk about are the 83% of the Fortune 500, right? So we're talking about enterprise customers who have the cycles to lab and test and do all the things that they would need to feel comfortable signing potentially a big check to buy a bunch of software. And 83% of the Fortune 500 have landed on Veeam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 400, and I swear, I think I saw something in our marketing materials. The number is like 450,000 customers worldwide.
Right.
So I think the adoption of Veeam speaks volumes. Not that Netflix and Amazon aren't things people are also very happy with, but
Yeah.
we've got tremendous market penetration, and it has everything to do with a super robust portfolio. And we joke, right? Veeam just works. That was the tagline for a long time, and we still talk about it because it's true.
Yeah, that's great. And you're right. I mean, when we select vendors, with Cox Business Cloud Solutions, we're very purposeful about it, right? And the nice thing about being, in this position is we get to go out and sort of select the best from the best. And so when you think about our cloud solutions portfolio, we have the opportunity to go out and choose whichever ones are performing the best in the industry. And Veeam in this scenario is far and above, anything that I've seen and used. So good stuff there. All right, so quick check in here. I did just want to share these poll results. Pretty awesome. Well, and sort of scary at the same time. Didn't expect this necessarily, but 73% of those on the call feel that they're not confident. They gave us a no, which, candidly, I guess I'm surprised a little bit, but I'm also saying that it doesn't surprise me. I'm glad we have the honesty, because I'll tell you what, almost every time we sit down with customers, the initial response I get is, "Hey, do you have a plan?" It's like, "Yeah, sure, we got a plan." Then the more we get into it and the more we get into the technology, it's like, well, maybe not as much, we are concerned about this and that. And so I guess the point here is just know you're not alone. There's a lot of people going through this, and frankly, with everything going on in the news and everything else, we get it. This is stuff that is very real. It's keeping people up at night. So that's what I'd say to that. 73% are right there with you.
Yep, that's probably about right. And I don't know if you heard me, but I was definitely one of those guys, right? Not only for my own, my own environment and making sure I had some recoverability, but then, you scale that across a lot of different clients that we were working with. And, nobody wants to be firefighting a disaster, right? So the more seamless you can make it, the more turnkey you can make those plans, the sooner you'll be back to doing the things that are generating revenue.
That's right. It's a good way to put it. So I just want to take us through a quick case study here. I know there's a lot of text on this slide. Again, there's just so much to talk about with this specific client. This was a school district in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We won't say which one, but it was a school district, pre-K through 12th grade. Founded over 100 years ago. 12,000 students, 1,500 staff, 10 locations. They had some real challenges. One of which is they were susceptible to massive flooding. They were pretty close to the Arkansas River, still are, and there was that constant threat of flood. There was their data center was about 300 yards from their admin building. So as far as having the ability to do offsite storage and backups was a challenge. They were having ongoing construction, which was causing power outages and having data loss because of that. Aging infrastructure, limited budget to replace, kind of like we talked about, limited IT staff, and somewhat limited cloud experience. And honestly, not even just the experience, but the time to go deal with it. When you're dealing with, 1,500 staff and 12,000 students, and they all need IT support, that's tough. And they were concerned about ransomware and other cyber threats, and rightfully so. And when you start thinking about this, for a school district, this is a tough thing to overcome. Limited budgets, everything else happening, very challenging to overcome. So fortunately, they were actually a customer of ours on the connectivity side, buying WAN from us, and we were able to come in and work with them, get them a backup and disaster recovery solution. So really able to back up their data to our data centers, give them high availability, redundancy, 4-hour RTO, and pretty much, right on it as far as our recovery point. We were doing lots of backups. And I think the biggest thing was just giving them the peace of mind very quickly. It wasn't like go to all these meetings and try to order all this equipment and stand up a data center and build this all out and get people who knew how to run it. It was almost instant. The client peace of mind was there. And then, I think the other considerations that they came into play was, again, already a Cox Business customer, so they already knew us, trusted us, had a great working relationship. We helped them. We were hand in hand, with them as far as getting their onboarding and migration, going, instead of just selling them something and walking away. We helped them with that. The co-management model, and I'll talk about this in a second, but was really important for them, because we don't just tell you, as Cox Business, hey, either here's the solution, you're on your own, or the other side of it, which happens a lot, which is, we're going to take over everything. You don't have access to anything anymore, and we're going to manage it for you. We have a co-management process where we'll get involved as much or as little as you need us to, right? So if you want us to do most of it, but you still want to have management access in some scenarios, or be able to look at your network and see what's going on, we can accommodate that. The customer portal was big for them, being able to manage their services. US based customer support and including end user support was really key. And then getting to the basics here: significant capital cost savings, labor cost savings with install and management, and then the equipment update. They were thinking candidly, even if we go buy this stuff and spend quarter million, $500,000 doing it, what's the likelihood of us needing to do it again in 3 to 5 years?
Yep.
So just a really great, awesome customer, first of all, but secondly, just a great story about how we were able to come in and help them with
Was this an existing Veeam customer, or was Veeam new to the solution?
That's a good question, actually, Dan. I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe that they had Veeam, because I don't believe that they had a backup solution in place.
Okay, yeah. And a lot of times, we do see that. We talked about 450 odd thousand customers, but one of the great things about Veeam as a solution here, and I'll talk about it again, is the part where it just works. Everything is super easy, wizard driven. So assuming that, especially in that co-management model, that they've got a couple of IT staff who know, where the important things are, getting them up to speed with a solution like Veeam is super easy. And then, of course, working with you guys as a partner to help support, I'm sure just made the whole thing super smooth.
Yeah, it was a great all around. So good stuff.
Cool.
So again, just kind of looking at the offsite backup with Cox Business again, powered by Veeam, technology. It speaks for itself. We don't want to belabor the point, but simple setup of hosted repositories, built-in Veeam Cloud Connect, which is key, end-to-end encryption, again, for compliance and things. Rapid recoverability solutions. Dan, why don't you hit that one? Because I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah, we were talking about that. It is the case that, there are different levels of service that people will buy to provide that recoverability. And we talked about recovery time and recovery point objectives. But, if something catastrophic happens to your office, a flood, a fire, or something like that, the great thing is you can always pivot and work with your partner in Cox Business to be able to recover that information into their cloud. And while it may not be an instantaneous turn it on right away type of solution, they have the infrastructure expertise, all the things they would need to get that environment running for you in the cloud, even if it wasn't replication, right? And of course, it may be a time and materials type engagement or whatever it is. I don't know the specifics, but being able to have some recoverability in an infrastructure, in a data center that has infrastructure that's ready for it, makes a big difference, right? You don't have to worry about going out and buying that hardware, finding another data center or whatever it is. So I think that's a super valuable one.
Yep, agree. Integration with backup replication management tools, we went through some of that. And then, but ultimately what it comes down to is just that peace of mind, right? We can talk specifics around, all this stuff all day long, but if a client doesn't have that peace of mind where they know that they know that they know, right, that if they need to get to a file, or they need to get to a VM, or they need to get to something larger than that, a server, et cetera, that they've got that backup. It's just so critical. And again, eliminates the finger pointing, which is awesome. So a couple of things here I just want to kind of wrap up on. The other thing that's really is great about the way I think that we've implemented your solution here in our backup solution is we do it in 3 different ways. We've got an unmanaged backup repository, a co-managed on-premise backup, and then a fully managed scenario. But in any one of these, right? So even if you've got Veeam licensing today and you say, okay, I got Veeam licensing, I'm all set, but we could use a little help with, a few things with local backups and whatnot. We can help you with that. If you need, to get Veeam licensing, you want the guided installation, job creation, post deployment, support, all that stuff, and including, the rapid response support on the back end. Obviously, we can help you with that too. And the nice thing again about this is it gives you some flexibility as far as, do you want to be involved? Do you not want to be involved? How involved do you want to be? We can work with you on that. And then there's sort of the whole, hey, we are strapped. We're dealing with other stuff. We need you to kind of own this, Cox Business. We can help there too. And again, after dealing with, a lot of customers and Veeam, obviously even more than us, we know all the scenarios that customers, especially in the small, medium-sized business segment, are going through and can help guide through that. So it's a pretty unique scenario here. So anything you want to add, Dan?
I just a shout out to how great Cox Business has been. Your business with Veeam has grown so quickly over the last few years, and I think it's a testament to not only your ability to provide meaningful solutions to your customers, but also a lot to do with the customer retention piece, right? People are happy working with Cox Business and your technical teams, and I think that that is a good indicator of success there, right? Customer retention and adoption of new. So you guys have done a great job, and kudos.
Awesome. We'll take it. Yeah, and actually, we're one of your fastest growing partners, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. I cover a large swath of the U.S. and Cox Business has been. I want to say your volume of Veeam business has like doubled in the last 18 months or so. So it's been tremendous adoption. It's been wonderful.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Cool. Well, hey, I know we want to make sure we leave some time in for questions here. So, Summer, do we have any questions that came in?
Yes, we do. So I will just ask as many as I can in the next like 5 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. We usually leave 10, but.
No, it's all good. This should be
all right.
perfect. So what type of access to the Veeam software suite would I have? Would I get admin privileges?
So yeah, and actually we have another gentleman here from the product team on the Cox Business side of things too, who can speak to it, but I'll jump in maybe to start and then he can elaborate if we have additional follow-up questions. But yes, the answer is yes. In most cases, this scenario is going to be where the customer will have Veeam on-prem. Jared mentioned that co-management piece. So CB will help you deploy it, configure jobs, answer any questions you have. And then if you just need to do your own restores quick because somebody deleted their contacts or whatever it is, right? That's the kind of thing that you'd be able to do on your own. And then if you need some additional support, they can offer that. So yes.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Rob Bergman, who's on our product team. He's also joined us just in case, he wants to add in some extra, considerations for Cox Business. Robert, do you have any other things you'd like to add on that one?
No, I think Dan summed it up. I mean, we never take away a customer's admin privileges. We have a co-managed model, and it really fits every customer's need. If they want to, like Dan said, if they want to manage all of it or want us to manage some of it, we're here for them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Next up, what is the expected time for data backup and recovery for maybe 1 terabyte as an example?
As that to back it up, I guess the question, without going to a whole lot of technical detail, a lot of times it's going to have to do with network, right? The actual backups that are going to happen, on premise usually happen really quickly. Veeam is very efficient at what's called change block tracking. So we're only backing up the things that have changed in a VMware environment, for example. So a nightly backup might take 5 or 10 minutes to run. And then the amount of time it takes to push those changes over the internet and it's encrypted. We mentioned that in the previous slide. Over to the data center, has everything to do with how much bandwidth a customer has, but they could get an idea of what the nightly change rate is and go search for like a bandwidth calculator and get a sense for how long it might take to push it over the internet. But it usually isn't more than, a couple of hours. We anticipate everybody having that change accomplished within overnight.
Yeah, and I would just add, I mean, obviously, we're just happen to be a internet provider and bandwidth. But I think that's the cool thing about having a provider that can do both of these things, or a myriad of things, is if we're looking at what your needs are, then we can say, okay, well, hey, look, this is what it's going to take, this is how long. And you may say, okay, well, if it takes a few hours overnight, that's fine.
Right.
But you may say, no, that's not acceptable. We need to look at how do we increase that, and we can help you through that decision process.
I'll add on that 3-2-1 rule, making sure that you've got the bandwidth that's needed to push those copies offsite. I would suggest to you is not optional. Recovery time, how long it takes to get that data back, maybe you can kind of be flexible there, but recovery point, you need to make sure you've got that data offsite. So if that means adding more bandwidth, which isn't brutally expensive like it used to be in the T1 days, that's definitely something worth looking at. Yeah. Cool.
All righty. I'll do a couple more here. Is the cost dependent on backup size or number of servers being backed up, or something else?
It's actually a little bit of both. I'll take this one. So that we charge based on the number of VMs or physical machines that you're backing up, and then separately from the Veeam charges, there's a very nominal cost for the storage here, the cloud storage that you're using for your backup. So it's actually both.
And let's wrap up with this one. Do we get to move the Veeam license if we switch storage providers?
So there are two licensing scenarios in our world. One is if a customer owns the licensing on their own, in which case they retain it and they can choose whatever provider for offsite backup they want. If they're going to get the license from Cox Business in addition to the offsite backup, and they decide they wanted to go to offsite backup with somebody else, I don't know, Rob, would you continue to engage with a customer who wanted to buy the licensing through you but use a different provider for offsite? I suppose the answer is yes, right? I don't see why not.
I suppose we would. It's actually never come up to my knowledge. Everyone that's buying the licensing from us because of that co-managed model really wants that single provider. So we're providing the cloud-based storage and helping them back up their backup up to the cloud for that offsite component. And if they bought the Veeam, the VVR, the actual backup server license from us, we're helping them configure their jobs and maintain those and such. So it's possible, but I haven't seen that be a very prominent use case.
Yeah. But I guess they can be. They don't have to go together.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Good stuff. Well, there may have been other questions. If there are, we'll go ahead and send those out along with the recording after this event. Just wanted to say thank you. Thanks all across the country for attending our session today. Really special thank you to Dan. Appreciate you jumping on with us today and talking about Veeam and all the incredible solutions that you offer.
Yeah, happy to do it. It's good talking with you guys. We want to get as many people out there educated as possible. So yeah, let us know if you have any questions.
Love it. Will do. Yeah, so to wrap up, to learn more, connect with your Cox Business representative. They're out there. They're willing to have these conversations and guide you through this process. Or if you don't have a rep or you just want to learn more, go to www.coxbusiness.com/cloud, and you can learn not only about our backup solutions, but all of our other infrastructure, desktop, security solutions as well. Plenty of content on there to look at. And then also we've got a LinkedIn group called Cloud Q&A Conversations About Cloud. Feel free to look at that as well, ask any questions you have, and we have a panel of experts that can get back to you and talk to you about any thoughts that are on your mind. So once again, appreciate everybody coming out today to join us for this event. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and the rest of your week as well. Signing off, Cox Business.
Thanks, Jared. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Take care.